to Columbia and the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. In 1974, I was invited to move from New York University, where Alden Spencer, James Schwartz, and I had formed the nucleus of the Division of Neurobiology and Behavior, to the Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons, where I would be founding director of the Center for Neurobiology and Behavior. The move was attractive to me for several reasons. Historically, Columbia had a strong tradition in neurology and psychiatry, and a friend and former clinical teacher of mine, Louis Bud Rowland, was about to assume the chairmanship of the Department of Neurology. In addition, my first experience in neurobiology had been at Columbia. In 1955, while finishing medical school at NYU, I decided to take an elective course in basic neuroscience at Columbia with Harry Grundfest. At that time, no one on the faculty at NYU was doing basic neural science, and Grundfest was the most intellectually interesting neurobiologist in New York. The experience of working with him altered my career and my life. Several years later, when Grundfest retired, I was recruited to replace him. Finally, Denise was on the Columbia faculty, and our house in Riverdale was near the university, so a move to Columbia would greatly simplify our lives. I decided to leave NYU and was able to persuade Schwartz, Spencer, and Irving Kupferman to join me. In 1983, I became a university professor at Columbia. In 1984, Donald Fredrickson, the newly appointed president of the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, asked Schwartz, Richard Axel, and me to form the nucleus of a Howard Hughes Medical Institute at Columbia devoted to molecular neuroscience. The institute gave us the opportunity to recruit from Harvard both Thomas Jessel and Gary Struhl, as well as to keep Steven Siegelbaum at Columbia. So I resigned as director of the Center for Neurobiology and Behavior to become a senior investigator at the newly formed Howard Hughes Medical Institute, HHMI, at Columbia University. HHMI came into its own as a research institute after the death of business magnate Howard Hughes and the sale of the Hughes Aircraft Company, which was owned by the institute, and provided its remarkable endowment of $5.2 billion. That endowment was more than $1 billion larger than the Ford Foundation's, which until then had been the world's largest medical research endowment. Fredrickson and the Institute's trustees set out to fund, in a unique way, 4 areas of biomedical research, one of which was neuroscience. The Institute did not hire scientists to work at a campus of its own, nor did it award grants. Instead, as it did at Columbia, it recruited outstanding scientists and funded their work in their own labs. Thus, HHMI not only paid our salaries and those of the people employed in our lab, it also covered overhead costs. As James B. Weingarten, a former director of the National Institutes of Health, NIH, said, "There are a number of things Hughes can do that we just can't do. With their new assets, they are in a position to be a very powerful force." The Institute had a twofold objective in seeking a better understanding of how the brain works. First, to prevent, ameliorate, or cure brain disorders, and second, to provide a clearer physical basis for the practice of psychiatry. HHMI realized that to achieve these objectives, scientists would need longer-term funding than they had been accustomed to receiving. Extended, renewable funding would encourage them to work on ambitious problems that would take more than a year or two to produce results. I felt this myself. With funding from NIH, I would have worried about how likely I would be to get support if I didn't get results in 1 or 2 years. But HHMI's longer view let me take more of a chance rather than doing predictable things just to get results. A biological basis for psychiatry. Understandably, the first objective in improving our understanding of the brain was to prevent, ameliorate, or cure brain disorders. The importance of the second objective, to provide a biological basis for the practice of psychiatry, may appear less obvious. However, that objective has been a concern of mine ever since I